What happens when a rancher loses everything he's spent his entire life protecting? Episode 4 of Dutton Ranch answers that question in devastating fashion, delivering one of the most emotional and heartbreaking chapters of the series so far. What begins as suspicion quickly turns into confirmation, and what starts as a disease outbreak ends with an entire herd being wiped out. But that's only part of the story. While Rip and Beth struggle to save the ranch from total collapse, Carter finds himself getting deeper into his relationship with Oreana. Everett is pulled back toward old feelings he thought he left behind years ago, and Beth uncovers evidence that proves somebody deliberately set this disaster into motion. By the end of the episode, lives have been changed, dreams have been shattered, and the future of the Dutton Ranch has never looked more uncertain. Let's break it all down. Right from the opening moments, Episode 4 establishes a feeling of dread hanging over the ranch. The foot-and-mouth disease outbreak continues spreading through the cattle, and every passing hour makes the situation worse. Rip has already reached a conclusion in his mind. The new bull they purchased at auction is responsible. At first, it sounded like a theory fueled by frustration and desperation. But as more cattle become infected, Rip becomes increasingly convinced that someone sold them a contaminated animal. And if he's right, the consequences are catastrophic. For ranchers, cattle aren't just livestock. Their income, legacy, family history, and future generations rolled into one. Watching disease spread through a herd is like watching years of hard work disappear before your eyes. Meanwhile, Beth is trying to protect Carter from the reality unfolding around him. She doesn't want him witnessing the suffering. She doesn't want him seeing animals dying. She doesn't want him carrying those memories. But Carter has other priorities. Specifically, Oreana. Their relationship continues moving forward, and Beth quickly discovers just how serious things are becoming when she arrives home and finds the pair together in bed. It's an awkward moment. It's uncomfortable, but it's also an important turning point. Because for perhaps the first time, Carter isn't acting like a kid anymore. He's beginning to build a life of his own. Unfortunately for Oreana, that means facing Beth Dutton. And nobody wants that conversation. As Beth drives Oreana home, the tension inside the truck is almost unbearable. Beth makes her position crystal clear. She warns Oreana not to hurt Carter, not to manipulate him, not to take advantage of him. And perhaps most importantly, Beth makes it clear that if Oreana causes Carter pain, there will be consequences. Beth has always been fiercely protective of the people she loves. Sometimes too protective. And Carter has unquestionably become one of those people. What makes this scene so fascinating is that Beth isn't speaking as a ranch owner. She's speaking as a mother figure, whether she wants to admit it or not. When they arrive at the Jackson property, things become even more interesting. Beulah approaches Beth and attempts to make peace. At least on the surface. She offers a drink. She suggests burying old grudges. She talks about moving forward. But beneath her words lies something else entirely. A warning. A reminder that Rio Paloma is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone has connections. Everyone has influence. In another situation, those comments might sound harmless. Coming from Beulah, they feel more like a threat. Beth recognizes it immediately. And as expected, she refuses to play along. Instead of accepting the olive branch, Beth leaves. Because she has more urgent concerns. Back at the ranch, Beth begins digging into the bull's paperwork. And this is where the episode starts transforming from tragedy into mystery. She contacts Dr. Poole, the veterinarian supposedly responsible for the animal's pre-sale health examination. There's only one problem. Dr. Poole has no idea what she's talking about. He never examined the animal. He never performed blood work. He never signed the paperwork. Suddenly, everything changes. Rip's suspicions aren't paranoia. They're evidence. The paperwork was forged. Someone intentionally sold them diseased livestock. Someone deliberately put the ranch at risk. And now Beth knows it. While all this is happening, Carter finds himself on a completely different journey. Looking for work, he ends up meeting Danny Ray, one of the episode's most entertaining new characters. Danny Ray represents an old-school cowboy philosophy. No classrooms. No textbooks. No lectures. just experience. According to him, life itself is the teacher. And Carter quickly becomes one of his students. Their scenes together provide some much-needed breathing room amidst the episode's heavier moments. We watch Carter practice roping, learn ranch skills, share drinks, and get a glimpse into a rugged lifestyle that feels increasingly rare. But Danny Ray isn't exactly ordinary, because he also owns something completely unexpected. An African leopard named Xena. It's one of those bizarre details that somehow works perfectly within the show's world. And it reminds viewers that ranch country is full of colorful personalities. Beth later encourages Carter to take Oreana out for dinner. No curfew, no restrictions, no pressure. At first glance, it seems surprisingly generous. But Beth has ulterior motives. She wants Carter away from the ranch. She wants him distracted, because she knows what's coming. And she doesn't want him there to witness it. Meanwhile, Everett receives an unexpected call. A mare is supposedly about to foal at the Jackson Ranch. With Doc Sturgis unavailable, Everett becomes the only option. Naturally, he heads over, only to discover the emergency doesn't exist. The mare was never pregnant. The call was a setup. Beulah simply wanted to see him. What follows is one of the episode's quieter but emotionally rich scenes. The two reflect on their past, on aging, on regret, on dreams that never quite came true. There's a sense that these are two people wondering what life might have looked like if different choices had been made. And for a brief moment, we see walls come down. Not completely, but enough. It's a reminder that beneath all the ranch politics and family conflicts are human beings carrying decades of emotional baggage. Back at Dutton Ranch, however, events are approaching a devastating conclusion. The disease outbreak has reached a point where there are no good options left, only painful ones. Rip and the ranch hands begin moving the herd. The atmosphere is haunting. Everyone understands what's about to happen. Nobody wants to say it aloud. The cattle are led away from their home, away from their pastures, away from everything they've known. As they gather near the waterhole, preparations are already underway. A massive pit has been dug. The purpose is obvious and heartbreaking. Then comes the scene that will likely define the entire season. One by one, the ranchers open fire. There is no dramatic music, no heroic speeches, just grief, responsibility, and heartbreak. Rip knows these animals. He's cared for them, protected them, raised many of them, and now he's forced to kill them. Not because he wants to, because he has to. His line, "You don't deserve this," carries enormous emotional weight. Because he's not only talking to the cattle. He's talking about the ranch. He's talking about the people who depend on it. He's talking about everyone affected by someone else's greed. The sequence is absolutely devastating. And it represents one of the darkest moments we've seen from Rip. Afterward, Beth delivers another crushing revelation. The paperwork wasn't merely suspicious. It was entirely fake. Every document, every certification, every veterinary record, forged. Someone orchestrated this. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. For Rip, that's the final straw. The disease destroyed his herd. But the deception makes it personal. Fueled by anger and grief, Rip tracks down the cattle broker responsible. The confrontation is exactly what you'd expect from Rip Wheeler. Direct, intimidating, and impossible to misunderstand. The broker receives a simple message: leave town, immediately, and never come back. But Rip isn't finished. As a final act of revenge, he and Beth burn the man's trailer before driving away. It's not justice. Not really. It doesn't restore the herd. It doesn't erase the losses. It doesn't fix the ranch. But it gives Rip something he's desperately needed: an outlet, a target for his rage. Unfortunately, revenge doesn't solve financial disaster. And that's the reality waiting for them afterward. Because once the anger fades, the truth remains. The ranch has no cattle, no immediate source of income, and no easy path forward. The Dutton Ranch has survived countless challenges over the years. Land disputes, economic downturns, family conflicts, natural disasters. But this feels different. This feels existential. by the episode's closing moments, Rip finally makes the call he's been avoiding. He contacts Everett and delivers the news. The herd is gone. Everything has changed. It's a quiet ending, but an incredibly powerful one. Because for the first time this season, the threat isn't coming from outside forces. It's already happened. The damage is done. Now the question becomes whether the ranch can survive the aftermath. And that's what makes episode 4 so effective. It isn't just about disease. It isn't just about revenge. It's about loss. The loss of security. The loss of trust. The loss of something people spent years building. At the same time, the episode cleverly plants seeds for future conflicts. Beth's investigation suggests a much larger conspiracy. Carter's relationship with Oreana continues deepening. Everett and Beulah's complicated history remains unresolved. And Rip now has to figure out how to rebuild from absolute rock bottom. If the first 3 episodes establish the challenges facing Dutton Ranch, episode 4 proves those challenges are capable of destroying everything. And with the season approaching its midpoint, one thing has become very clear. The real battle for Dutton Ranch is only just beginning.